leader of Burkina Faso, stood face to face, not physically, but politically, with Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's long-standing prime minister. It wasn't a meeting of equals in power or influence, but it was a meeting of boldness and truth. In a world where most leaders toe the line, Traoré chose to draw one. It all started with what seemed like an ordinary statement at a press, but there was nothing ordinary about the fire in Traoré's voice. The world didn't expect what happened. They didn't see it coming. One young African leader, barely known by many outside the continent, stood up and shook the table. His words weren't loud, but they echoed. His name? Ibrahim Traoré, the man who made the world stop and listen. And standing across from him, one of the most seasoned, controversial, and calculating leaders in global politics, Benjamin Netanyahu. Traoré didn't come with threats. He didn't come with weapons. He came with words. Sharp, honest, unapologetic. In a press conference that was supposed to be routine, Traoré did something rare. He looked straight at the cameras and asked, "Why are we silent? Why do we say nothing when bombs fall on children?" He wasn't just asking politicians, he was asking humanity, and the world went still. He wasn't talking as a diplomat. He was talking as a father, as a soldier, as a son of Africa who knew what suffering looks like, who had seen pain up close, who had carried the dead, who had buried the innocent. His voice didn't tremble, but it carried the weight of generations. Netanyahu, seasoned and sharp, responded as expected. He defended his country's actions, spoke of security, of terror, of rights to defend. But for the first time in a long time, his words felt hollow, because someone had just said what so many were too afraid to say, and that someone was not from Washington, not from London, not from Paris. He was from Ouagadougou. Social media lit up in Dakar, Lagos, Kinshasa. People started to whisper, then speak, then shout. He spoke for us, they said. He spoke for the mothers in Gaza, for the kids in refugee camps, for Africans who've been taught to stay quiet. And in those moments, Traoré became more than a president. He became a mirror, a fire, a spark. Critics rushed in. Western media tried to tame the moment. He's too young. He doesn't understand global politics. He's emotional, but it was emotion that moved hearts. It was truth that broke the silence. And in Africa, people didn't see immaturity. They saw courage. They saw Sankara in his eyes. They saw the spirit of a continent that refuses to be ignored. Then came the shockwave. Traoré didn't just speak, he acted. Burkina Faso immediately halted all military cargo that passed through its territory, especially weapons headed to conflict zones in the Middle East. It wasn't just a statement, it was sacrifice. It was sovereignty in action. And that terrified the powerful. Behind closed doors, the calls began. Ambassadors warned of consequences. Aid might be reduced, sanctions might come, but Traoré didn't blink. "We are not here to serve foreign interests," he said. "We are here to serve justice." He wasn't trying to be liked, he was trying to be right. And in a world that often rewards silence, that made him dangerous. Other African leaders started watching, quietly, cautiously, but something shifted. You could feel it. The weight of colonial pressure, the fear of speaking out, the silence forced by dependency, it started to crack. In UN meetings, votes began to shift, statements grew bolder. Something had been unlocked. Back in Israel, Netanyahu wasn't used to this. He was used to global silence, especially from Africa. But here was a young leader from a small country refusing to bow, refusing to play the game, refusing to be another yes man in a system built on silence. And here's what made it powerful. Traoré wasn't choosing sides. He wasn't anti-Israel. He wasn't pro-terror. He was pro-truth. He was standing on the side of humanity, on the side of mothers who had lost everything, on the side of dignity. And that clarity, that moral strength is what stunned the world most. For decades, African leaders have been told to play it safe. Don't upset the West. Don't speak too loudly. Just focus on aid, loans, trade. But Traoré reminded the world of something different, that Africa is not weak, that Africa remembers, that Africa can speak and the world will listen. In homes across the continent, people wept, not because of politics, but because of pride, because finally someone had broken the chains of fear. Someone had reminded the world that African voices matter, that African children matter, that African courage still lives. And even now, the ripple continues. Songs are being written, speeches are echoing, youth are rising. They don't just see a president, they see a path. A reminder that change doesn't come from power, it comes from truth. This was never just about Netanyahu. This was about a continent finding its voice. And Ibrahim Traoré didn't just speak, he roared. And in doing so, he left a world built on silence and control, completely, utterly speechless.